All right, Andrew's recording. I'm recording. All right. Hey, you. I didn't see you there. Either way, today's show is brought to you by the extremely kind donations by our donors over at Patreon. Andrew, what is Patreon and who's supporting us?
Patreon is where you can go to support us financially. And check out our other shorter podcast about Glee, where, that one's about to get really interesting, isn't it?
Yes, I'm gonna get much angrier on there, because everyone's been flooding my inbox with horrible Leah Michelle stories, so it's great that I can just hate on her without feeling guilty anymore.
I'm not even gonna read them, because I want you to be able to explain them to me on the show, because that will be interesting.
That's good. You're gonna look forward to that, patrons.
Okay, yeah. Our current patrons are Terry Needleman, Max Lunig, Benjamin Lira, Lily Ackles, Mackenzie Horner, John Donna, Taryn the Duck, the fantastic Just Lightning, Ewan Cassidy, Haley McDonald, Taskier, Fire of September, Mina Maniri, Monica Thoreau, Brent Black, Haley Murray, Alice in Wonderland, B-Way Flicks, Nathaniel Stacy Coombe, Joseph Evans Green, Luna Rocks 222, Irigale Drouet Whiter, Carrie Ahern, Christine Malmadel, Mezzanine Theater Diary, Mary Lou Choquette, Ann Nunnally, Cole Birchfield, Sam Caulfield, John Vanals, Holy Sticality, Russ Walker, Musical Hell, Emily Grace, Andrew Van Barson, Emily Stack, Kyle Summers, Mr. B, Janae C, I might be pronouncing that wrong. Janae C, pardon me, Kyle, and Christina Francis. I've got a lot of new names on there, actually.
Yeah, a lot of people. They must be really enjoying that Glee content.
Oh,
but
yes.
they give us a little extra financial support that helps us keep the lights on here at Musicals with Cheese. If you'd like to join them in supporting us and get tons of fun perks, such as patron-only commentaries, or episodes a day earlier, even earlier, our own Glee podcast, and much more, come join us over at Patreon. All right, Andrew, you ready to get to the show?
I'm ready.
Hello, I'm Jesse McAnally.
And I'm Andrew DeWolf.
And welcome to Musicals with Cheese, a podcast where I try to get Andrew to like musical theater. How are you doing today, Andrew?
Well, we're recording this on June 3rd.
Not a lot of good things are going on right now.
Yeah.
The world is ending. Trump's taking away our civil liberties. I know what you're thinking. Yeah, that's just any Wednesday. But it's starting to get worse, and it's really, really bad. Authoritarianism is coming, and it's really hard to get energized about this show, not gonna lie. So, we're depressed.
Authoritarianism has been here. It's getting that fascist hat now, It's growing the mustache.
Would you say that you're anti-fascist? Because that makes you a terrorist, sir.
Oh my goodness. Being against fascism makes me a terrorist? Well,
yep.
Color me ISIS.
Oh, God. That's the t-shirts, guys. It's the first Musicals with Cheese t-shirt. Color me ISIS. But no, we're a bit down on energy and just emotions today, so perfect topic to continue Pride Month.
Yeah.
The most prideful month of the year.
Would you say that we're having a lot of fun right now?
More like a funeral home.
Oh my goodness.
Play the clip.
Play the clip.
Fun Home is a musical adapted by Lisa Kron and Jeanine Tesori from Alison Bechdel's 2006 graphic memoir of the same name. The story concerns Bechdel's discovery of her own sexuality, her relationship with her gay father, and her attempts to unlock the mysteries surrounding his life. It is the first Broadway musical with a lesbian protagonist. It is told in a series of nonlinear vignettes connected by narration provided by the adult Allison character. The musical was developed through several readings and performances, including the Ojai Playwrights Conference, and the Sundance Theater Lab. It opened off-Broadway at the Public Theater in September of 2013 to positive reviews. It was extended several times until January of 2014. The Public Theater production of Fun Home was nominated for 9 Lucille Lortel Awards, winning 3, including Outstanding Musical, 2 Obie Awards, and 8 Drama Desk Awards, among others. The original Broadway production began previews at the Circle in the Square Theater in March of 2015 and opened in April of 2015. It was nominated for 12 Tony Awards and winning 5, including Best Musical. And its cast album received a nomination for the 2016 Grammy Award for Best Musical Theater Album. The production closed on September 10, 2016. A U.S. national tour and foreign productions followed. Jake Gyllenhaal and Riva Marker, through their 9 Stories Productions banner, have reportedly secured the rights to produce a film version of the musical. Gyllenhaal proposes to star as Bruce Bechtold, with the original director of the Broadway show, Sam Gold, directing. All right, after all that, Andrew, what is your general thoughts about Fun Home?
I liked it overall. There's some things I didn't love, but I think the whole relationship aspect between her and her father really drives Fun Home the point here, and it's pretty good.
Would you believe this is the only Broadway show I've actually seen on a Broadway stage?
Since you've told me that before, yes.
I mean, it's one of those very intimate shows, and I know you're not always a fan of those. You kind of like the big body musical numbers and show tunes. I
do like those better, but sometimes these are good too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think this is a really well done and probably the only really good comic adaptation of a Broadway show.
Really?
Adaptation of a comic book to a Broadway show? I mean, yeah. This is the only one that's good.
Yeah, I mean, the Spider-Man isn't very good.
Annie isn't very good.
Annie, yeah.
Peanuts, I guess. It's not, like, amazing. It's a whole different show, though.
Wait, there's a Peanuts show and we haven't done it yet?
Yeah, it's called You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown.
You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I want to watch that.
Well, if enough people request it on Patreon.
Everyone request that. I want to watch it. Give me a reason.
Yeah, it's a good show. It's a lot of fun to watch, like, high schools do that show. Specifically, that's a really good high school show.
Yeah. So, fun fact, did you know that the main character's brother in this is an industrial metal keyboardist?
What?
John Bechtel has played with bands such as Ministry and Fear Factory.
I mean, I didn't know that, and I feel like I'm a lot happier now that I know it.
Yeah.
So you're asking where is his adaptation of his childhood?
He's in this. I mean, his character is in the song "Come to the Fun Home,"
and he gets referenced a lot after that.
Yes, so he's in it. This is his show.
I mean, I wouldn't call it his show.
Definitely not. He stops appearing like less than halfway through.
I mean, this is a tonal tightrope because this is a very funny show, but it's also like very dramatic. And with these musical numbers and also the realistic world we're living in, that is a really rough tightrope to walk. And I'm amazed that they're able to do it.
I find a lot of times it ends up not being that funny, but pulling off the drama pretty well for me.
I think it has one moment of high comedy that I think works well, specifically Changing My Major song. I think that one is...
Really, I found that one to be a bit not funny, but maybe that's just my sense of humor.
Right. Meaning you have no sense of humor.
I don't know. Sex isn't funny. I've never found sex funny.
I always think sex is funny because I know it doesn't offend anyone, and it shouldn't offend anyone.
I mean, it definitely does offend some people. It does not offend me. That is not what I'm saying. Sex jokes don't offend me. I just don't think they're funny.
Like, just using the term finger blast makes me giggle.
I guess. I don't know. It's fine. I don't know. It's not for me.
Yeah, and I get that. But that scene in specific is adapted very well from the comic, let's say this is not a one-for-one adaptation of the comic. There's a lot of creative liberties to make it sing more on stage. But in the comic, which is Alison Bechtel's real life, she describes her first lesbian sexual experience as The girl she was dating and went down on her had one eye. She had a glass eye. So she's like, this is like Odysseus conquering the Cyclops. Like, that was the kind of ways that book was written, like very, very gaudy literary references throughout, because Alison Bechdel is a very smart woman with a very well-read woman. So they adapted the idea of that very well, if not directly one for one. And I bring that up only because with adaptation, I think that there does need to be changes, and you can't just do a one for one interpretation, but you can get the spirit of what the intention was.
I'm wondering, I did not read the comic, obviously. Is Joan a character in the comic, or is that like a amalgamation of multiple?
There is a woman who is her first person she does bring home, but she doesn't have a personality. No one really has a voice in this aside from really Allison. It's like her narrating over images and like small fragments of her life. The closest thing to a character outside of her is Bruce, just because it's about him.
Yes.
So kind of like how the brothers are there and they do say things, but they're not really characters. They're just kind of shadows.
I want to say it's not really about Bruce either. I think it's more about her relationship with him than it is actually about him.
Well, it's her complicated relationship with him, and I feel the Broadway show softened him up a bit, especially with Michael Cerveris' performance on Broadway. Michael Cerveris tried to ride the line of making him likable and trying not to make him as harsh as he really was in the comics, which is he never even hugged his daughter, and the only companionship that she had in her memory was like this one time where she just kissed his hand and he just looked at her like, what are you doing?
I feel like that would hurt the show quite a bit, having him be that unlikable. Yeah, because the one that I saw here, like, he's kind of like a conflicted character who seems to be going through his own thing, and he's struggling with that, but he's trying. Whereas I guess if you made him completely unlikable, it basically would turn into, man, this guy's not even putting in an effort. Like,
well, the thing is, like, if you take him down to his deeds, because Bruce Bechdel is her gay father who's cheating on his wife systematically, including with boys, young boys under 18. So bad that he had to go to court about it and almost lost his job and was forced to move from the community.
Yes.
And his wife is just steadfast staying with him for, I don't even understand what reason.
The kids.
Yes, the kids, but also kind of like a sense of herself. And the tension there is just so thick, like, especially if you're in the room watching it happen, like, you can just feel it in the air between those actors.
I would have liked to see more of the mother.
Mm-hmm. And Alison Bechdel did do a kind of companion piece all about her mother, but by all means, like, she didn't have a wonderful relationship with either of them, but it seems like she was able to come to terms with her mother more. And there's still, this show frames Bruce's death as a 100% a suicide. Like, it doesn't even, whereas she's like, it's quite possible it was just an accident. He got startled by a snake and jumped back into the car or something like that. But as far as, like, it seemed like he just killed himself.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Obviously, I'm biased based on the fact that I've only seen the show, but it feels like if you die by getting hit by a truck by jumping into the road, that is most likely a suicide. It's not like an uncommon form of suicide. So
no. And I feel like even with they tell you right up front, you killed yourself, I'm gay, you're gay. Like, they don't set any of these up as a big twist.
No.
Which I also appreciate quite a bit.
Yeah, I think a lesser show would be like holding it back, and then the dad has this moment at the end where it's like, I was gay the whole time, and we have so much in common, but I couldn't tell you. And it's like, they never do that. No.
Well, they didn't even do the Fun Home thing of waiting around 30 minutes, or not Fun Home. They didn't do the Next to Normal thing where they waited 30 minutes to have the reveal of, oh, he's fucking a guy.
Yeah, no. They just tell you up front. They don't try to trick you or you know, keep you on the edge of your seat with something. Because what's actually interesting is the realism of it, and like how this is how actual people act.
And one of the things I think this captures very well, the graphic novel, is her entire life. She thought she had nothing in common with her dad, because her dad's like this really effeminate in his appreciations of like theater and the way he dresses and the fact that he literally lives in like a museum of sorts.
Yeah.
And while she's just like, I want to dress like a boy and go out and do these things. And then when she finally discovers she's a lesbian, she understands that her father is gay, and she's like, oh, we had basically a lot more in common. And once she realizes that, she literally gets one day to come to terms with that before he kills himself.
Yeah.
And that is that car ride, which is the climax of this, which in any other show would have been like more traumatic and much more, but it's still very realistic, very down to earth, and just
I think
depressing.
That's what makes it the most like that car ride scene is by far the most interesting scene in the entire show. And I think it's because like it really just shows how people can communicate so poorly. It's like,
yes.
It's just like, this is real life, you know, like when you want to say something to somebody, but you can't, and they just keep going into like small talk, and it's just like irrelevant stuff. And then you're about to talk about what you actually want to talk about. And then it's like,
it's over.
So about that weather, you know.
But the thing is, it's the kind of small talk where you don't understand the meaning of it until you're looking back, which is why that framing device of older Allison looking back at this moment is so important. Like, him just being like, when I was a boy, I knew this guy, Norris Jones, like, lots of boys had. It was just fun for them, but for me, I never outgrew it. But I always knew, and then, like, that in that moment probably seems like nothing, because you're not thinking about it, but then looking back at it, it's like, oh, fuck, that was him finally telling me what he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and very much like the comic book, they have that, except the one change that was in the comic was he tries to bring her to a gay bar, and they wouldn't let her in because she wasn't 21, instead of just mentioning it.
Yeah, which, honestly, either way, not really necessary, in my opinion, but...
No.
I guess it's his attempt of bonding with her, but, like, I don't know.
And since this is Pride Month, and a lot of, like, the LGBT environment is self-definition, what are you, and whether you're bi, lesbian, all that. And by all means... Even Alison Bechdel says this in his book, I probably should equate my dad more as bi than gay. It's just when I call him gay, I feel like that makes me closer to him, which is an interesting thing that a line that I really stuck with, and I wish kind of made it into the musical form.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you think that he's just gay, then it also puts off his relationship with his wife as just a front, essentially. Whereas if you don't interpret it that way, then he's almost, I mean, either way, he's kind of a bad guy for like cheating on her. But if you interpret it that he is bi, now he's cheating on her and he does like her. So I don't know, where it's like, it's no longer just a front. Now it's like, this is an actual relationship that you're ruining. So.
Well, I think they did have a relationship, because in Helen's song Days and Days, she describes, like, we had a great life, like, we read books, we had drinks with friends, and then we went on this trip, and he met one of his old army buddies, and I learned years later that was his first lover.
Yeah. Oh well, poor Helen.
And the thing is, like, this really frames Bruce to be this horrible, unlikable person. But somehow the musical is able to make him kind of, I wouldn't say likable, but interesting. You are always interested in what he's going through whenever he's on stage.
Yeah. There's a lot to like here.
This is one of my favorite musicals of all time, just because there's nothing else like it. I cannot compare this very easily to anything. Like, it's got bits of falsettos, it's got bits of this and bits of that, and a little bit of parade. Yeah.
It's interesting with the framing device and everything of her looking back. I feel like there's some stuff is kind of pointless.
All right. What are you thinking of specifically when you say that?
I mean, we have things like Come to the Fun Home or whatever, where there's really not much information about how she interacts with her dad. They try to put it in there like, oh, well, he showed me a dead body.
Yeah.
But, okay, he runs a funeral home. I'm sure.
Well, I get what you're saying, and I kind of feel that. Like, Come to the Fun Home is, like, on the bottom of my list of songs I want to talk about or have much to say about. I still don't skip it on the soundtrack cast album when I listen to it. But it's not, like, it's the only one I'm coming out humming, but only because it's kind of the only one that's hummable.
Yeah.
But I think it works because it is immediately undercut by the horrific scene of her going in and seeing a cut open cadaver.
Yeah, maybe have a song about that, though.
Well, the thing is, it's about childhood lost, like losing your childhood. So we see the childhood, and then we see the moment it dies. So
it's just like My Girl.
You can't see without his glasses.
Yeah, can't see without his glasses.
That film I remember watching that film too young, and it just felt like a normal, like, kid movie, and then suddenly Macaulay Culkin's dead.
Yeah. Macaulay Culkin died a lot in those early films.
Did he? Was that a thing? Did they kill him at the end of Home Alone?
They kill him in 1990, right? I don't know. Jacob's Ladder, My Girl. I'm trying to remember. There was another one. He dies in Did
he die in The Good Son?
The Good Son. He does die in The Good Son. God,
you're caught up on your Macaulay Culkin commentary.
How many times does Macaulay Culkin die? Can we get a number on this?
Can someone do a fan edit of all of Macaulay Culkin's death and then tag him in it?
Yeah, I'm sure he'll actually comment on that too because he has nothing better to do.
No, he just shows up on Red Letter Media like once every other month.
Good for him.
He used to have a really good podcast called Bunny Ears, and he hasn't touched it in a couple months.
Yeah, it's a good time to come back with that.
It's a good time for anyone to do podcasts, because what else are we going to do during this
Macaulay,
horrible please state?
Can we please get, like, an actual Home Alone? Like, can you convince somebody to make that where you're back and you're Home Alone again, but you're an adult?
No, he's the burglar this time.
Oh, no! How did they frame that?
Well, just Kevin grew up on the wrong side of the tracks after, like, his house burned down in Chicago.
Oh,
and
shit.
Then he learns all the trades, and he has to defeat paint cans versus paint cans, and he's one step ahead of the kid this time.
Oh my god. He's setting traps in someone else's house to rob them.
Yes.
Like,
my God.
And it's like a horror movie, and you get the cold open. Someone hears a noise and they wake up and they walk out of their room, and then there's like Hot Wheels and they roll down the stairs or something. And then, like, they're dead, and Macaulay Culkin just walks out and he's like, "Are you home alone?" I don't know. Macaulay Culkin looks like he's had a bit too much meth.
I think he's looking pretty good.
He's looking better now, actually. You're right. I forgot about his modern appearances. There was a time where he was looking bad, but he's looking better now.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, he flipped a switch, like, all right, done with the drugs, back to life.
Back to Macaulay.
Had my fun, back to the world.
Had my fun home.
All right, before we go into a commercial interruption, I do want to talk to you about the movie that's proposed to come out.
Yeah, and there actually will be a soundtrack soon.
Yes. What do you think about the casting of Jake Gyllenhaal, who's, like, producing and starring? Like, how do you think he'd do in that role?
Jake Gyllenhaal. Is that... Oh my goodness. Jake Gyllenhaal is
Mysterio.
Mysterio, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. He's gonna play Bruce?
Yes.
I feel like he's a little young.
I don't think so. I think he's getting up there.
I guess. I feel like I'd rather see a bit of an older actor as Bruce, but maybe not.
Well, the thing is, he has to kind of age, because he starts at, like, mid-30s and then ends at 50s. That's
true. So we're gonna get Jake Gyllenhaal in some weird makeup, aren't we?
Probably by the end of it, but he looks more like the comic version of Fun Home. To be honest, because the comic version,
he's a very good actor, so he can probably pull it off very easily.
I mean, yes, and he can actually sing. He's like an actual Broadway singer, like.
Yeah, the fact that he didn't sing in Spider-Man is, like, just offensive.
The fact that he hasn't sung in a movie yet kind of bothers me.
Has he really not sung in any movies?
No, he's been on Broadway a lot. He was Seymour in Little Shop of Horrors, and he was really good. Sunday in the Park with George, he was amazing in. And I think he's good for the role. The only thing that raises an eyebrow is the director, who is the director of the stage show. And you know me, I'm a purist. I think you should get Broadway people involved in the movie adaptations. I don't think they should direct because it has never gone well.
Yeah, well, it's a big difference between directing a stage show versus a movie, I would assume.
Yes, it is a whole different world. Like, I am able to direct films technically, as I think you'd agree with me that I am technically able to do that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever be able to direct a full stage show. That's too many things in a whole different world. Because you're looking at big picture stuff then, instead of like the small, minute details.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different. There's no cameras with a stage show. There's nothing you don't have to worry about like framing in the same sense because I mean an audience's perspective on a stage show is static. You know, it's almost like filming something with one camera for the entire time. You know,
that doesn't move. Yeah.
Yeah, and the camera literally doesn't move. It's very different.
Yeah, and it has never gone well. Like, Hal Prince, one of the best theater directors of all time, directed one of the worst film adaptations of his own work with A Little Night Music. Terrible, terrible film. Susan Stroman, who directed The Producers, went on to direct The Producers movie, and it just doesn't work as well because she shot it like basically a TV show. The jokes don't land, and it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't think that film is terrible, but I don't think it works as a film.
Yeah, I think the movie is better as just a filmed version of the musical.
Yeah, and I wish they had just done that. Part of me just kind of wishes that was how it worked.
Yeah. Who else is cast right now? Who's going to play?
That's it. This was literally a couple weeks ago. I honestly want Sydney Lucas, who played the original Small Allison, and also has her own podcast on the Broadway Podcast Network alongside us. I think she'd be a great medium Allison by the time they start filming this. She could sing about being in love with Joan.
Who's going to play Big Allison, though? Because that's really the big important role.
Part of me is like, Alison Bechdel could probably do it. But I know that is not the right mindset to go in with.
I feel like if you want to do a movie version of this, the best way to frame it would be like literal like meta kind of breaks where the character comes out and like literally just breaks the fourth wall kind of thing. Well,
yeah, like I can see this being very bad as a film too. Like, I can see that version where you literally just fade into the comic panel and then we're there in that moment. Like, I think that is the bad way to do this.
Oh, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, the narrator exists as a character, like, outside of the footage that's occurring, essentially. But it's not like we're watching a comic book. We're watching a movie, and then the narrator exists outside of the movie.
Like, is there an example that you have in your head from another film?
The best example I could think of is like Emperor's New Groove, where they do that thing where like literally Kuzco will pause the movie and be like, "Look at this. This is what I'm talking about." Blah blah blah. But like not as comedic though.
So you're thinking of like a Zach Morris timeout, like timeout. Yeah. That's me.
Not that goofy, but yes.
You see, I kind of think you should just, if Jesse McNally is there directing it, you kind of have her drawing and then she looks up and she's there and it's slightly desaturated for like all the past things, like kind of that 70s thing, and she's like full color, like that differentiates her so she's able to walk around in this space.
Like Christmas Carol?
Not quite like Christmas Carol, but kind of. I get what you're saying, but not quite.
I think they could play up the comedy a bit. Because really, it doesn't get dramatic enough to be interesting until the second act, in my opinion. So I think the first act, you should play up the comedy a bit more.
Yeah, but it's nostalgic and all that, and the opening number specifically, I think would be really hard to do traditionally. Like, you've got to figure out a brilliant theatrical way to cut between those moments without it being strange. Because it's such a great theatrical moment where in the past, we have young Allison and her dad looking through all this old crap and looking at like this piece of silver and him like gushing about it. And then her as an adult finding the box again and looking at it and being like, look at this and the nonsense my dad used to like, and getting nostalgic about it. Like that is such a beautiful stage experience, like a stage scene. And I just see it being done so terribly on film.
What if they only have one Allison character and it's just It's always the same Allison living different moments in time.
You know what? Part of me kind of thinks this would work better as an animated film. Like a Mary and Max stop motion or something.
Like a cartoon?
Yeah, like a cartoon. Because I like cartoons.
And then Bruce is drawn not as a cartoon, he's drawn as a piece of fine art.
No, he's drawn as Jake Gyllenhaal, just in the cartoon world.
Well, I mean, he always hated cartoons, though.
I mean, yeah.
Hating cartoons is against the law, by the way. If you hate cartoons, I'm going to tear gas you and throw you in prison for no reason.
Can we talk about that cartoon sequence for a second?
Sure.
Like, that is the most real moment in this show. Like, the part that kind of gives me PTSD.
John, Christian, me. See? Floating in bubbles because we're not born yet.
That is very interesting. Now, let me show you how we can make it better. You have the potential to become a real artist. Do you know that? You do. But you have to study the forms. You have to learn the rules. Now, let's talk about composition. Now, this is all over the place. Pick one area.
The Keystone State.
No, that's still too much. Here, watch this. Okay, I'm going to draw our mountains. See? See that? And see how I'm shading them? That gives them dimension. Make this part look rugged. Allegheny Plateau. And this dark shaded stripe, bum bum bum, is the front. And paint the long ridges and valleys below.
I want the whole state.
Trying to explain to you, you can't do that.
Well, let me try.
No, Allison, this is how it should look.
I like the way
no,
mine
but you can't do that unless you want to ruin it. I'm trying to teach you something important.
Bruce, it's a drawing. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. She's taking it into school. She's showing it in class. You know what? Never mind. You want to take some half-baked mess into school, you want to embarrass yourself. It doesn't matter to me. Do what you want. I don't care.
No, I like the one you did, Daddy.
Where she draws a cartoon and he's like, oh yeah, that's great, but like cartoons aren't art, so you have to do this.
Well, it's not even that. It's more like, hey, I'm drawing this thing for school, and look at how great it is, and I'm doing all this funny ideas. And he's like, no, you're not doing that. And then it builds up and getting like the back and forth of it until like he's like, they're gonna take it to school. Do you want the teachers? Do you want the other students being embarrassed because our kid's an idiot? Like that type of microaggressions. Like the intention, it appears at first to be like, oh, let me tell you how to make it better, and it reveals itself like, I don't want this bitch to embarrass me in front of people that respect me because I'm a teacher at that school.
Yeah.
That shit like hit me like a brick.
Yeah, it's a little mean. And by a little, I mean a lot mean.
But no, it reflects like honesty in like the world that you live in. Like, I don't know about you, but that feels like a real like familial experience. Like,
how do you as an artist learn to accept criticism if that's some of the first criticism you've ever received?
It basically made to feel guilty for doing things your own way is kind of it. And then by the end, like, he's like, fine, take the half-baked piece of shit to school. I don't care. You want to embarrass yourself? Go for it. Which is basically Bruce's MO throughout it, because he pulls the same move earlier when she's like, I want to wear pants and shit to this event. And he's like, all the other girls are going to be wearing a dress. You're going to be the only one, like, dressed like this. But if you want to do it, fine. I don't care. Embarrass yourself.
Yeah, he's passive-aggressive. He's a rude dude.
It's something you don't see. It's like microaggressions that you like. I think happens a lot with children and parents and their relationships.
Maybe some parents just don't know how to talk to kids, and then they get frustrated. I don't know.
Do you think that Bruce wanted children? Like, from what this show tells you?
Probably. Based on the fact that he had 3 of them.
You see, that's part of the thing about, like, was he bi or was he gay? Because he definitely had sex with his wife.
He certainly did, and it was on a lot of occasions, obviously. Mm-hmm. That or they were trying very hard and planning. In which case, You'd think he'd be a better parent.
I mean, some people just aren't ready to have kids until... They don't realize they don't want kids until they got the kid.
Yeah, and you can't just get rid of kids. Not anymore.
Not anymore. Black market isn't as easy as they used to be. All right, actual last question before mid-show.
Sure.
What do you think the worst thing Bruce does in the show is? Like, he does a lot, but, like, what is the worst one for you?
I don't know. I feel like the thing with the artwork is definitely pretty messed up, and the same with, like, you can't wear what pants you want to wear. Honestly, the whole, like, when she comes out and everything, he doesn't handle that poorly, surprisingly. I don't know. What do you think is?
The one that sticks out to me is like, whoa, that's real fucked up.
Yeah.
It's a tie between trying to get a kid drunk, like a kid drunk so he can have sex with him.
Okay,
that was fucked up.
I guess I was more considering what he did with his daughter, but if you're just talking about,
him as a person,
Yeah, there is that, for sure.
And also the time when they're in New York. Now, this was a song, or a scene, that was added into the Broadway production that wasn't in the original off-Broadway cast.
Yeah.
At least not in the cast recording. So this scene takes place in New York, where he brings all his kids away from his wife, and they're like going in, and then he puts all the kids to sleep, and he is getting up to leave. Allison wakes up and is like, where are you going? And he's like, oh, don't worry, I'm just getting a paper. He sings her to sleep and then goes, and then she later reflects on, oh, he was probably getting a fucking hustler to have sex with.
Yeah, or going to like
he's probably cruising for dick.
Yeah, most likely.
Like, leaving the kids alone so you can, in New York, one of the dangerous cities in the world, especially in the 70s.
Yeah.
Just so you can go fuck some dude?
Yeah, it's not a good thing to do. Not as traumatizing as the other events, I suppose, but definitely not morally right.
Well, it's one of those things that you don't think is traumatizing because it's just like, oh, I'm a kid. Things happen. He went to get a paper. You always think about whatever your parents say as gospel. Then when you look back at it, it's like, oh, fuck, no, this is what was really happening. That kind of messes with my mind a bit more than the things are kind of fucked up in the moment.
True. Yeah, I don't know if I agree, because I feel like yelling a lot of times for kids is more traumatizing and just like straight up yelling at them, but I can see where you're coming from.
Well, that is also just neglect and endangerment.
Yes.
Willful neglect and endangerment, which kind of is like, yo, one job, don't let these kids die.
Yeah, but if you want to go with the neglect and endangerment thing, then maybe him intentionally getting someone who is underage drunk to try to have sex with them, which is essentially rape.
It very much was. And not only that, you're a teacher in a position of authority, and that's one of your students. So like that is like 14 lines of like, oh fuck.
Yeah, I think it's time for a mid-show.
Yeah, I think we should talk in the mid-show. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt you in the middle of the show, but we've got a shill at you. Shill. Our current patrons are Terry Needleman, Max Lunig, Benjamin Lehrer, Lily Ackles, Mackenzie Horner, John Donna, Taryn the Duck, The Fantastic, Jess Lightning, Ewan Cassidy, Haley McDonald, Tess Gear, Fire September, Mina Maneri, Monica Thoreau, Brent Black, Haley Murray, Allison Wonderland, B-Way Flicks, Nathaniel Stacy Coombe, Joseph Evans Green, Luna Rocks 222, Irigale Drouet Whiter, Carrie Ahern, Christine Malmedel, Mezzanine Theater Diary, Mary Lou Choquette, Anne Nunnally, Cole Birchfield, Sam Caulfield, John Van Als, Holly Stistically, Russ Walker, Musical Hell, Emily Grace, Andrew Van Barson, Emily Stack, Kyle Summers, Mr. B, Janae C, Kyle, and Christina Francis. They give us a little extra financial support that helps us keep the lights on here at Musicals with Cheese. If you'd like to join them in supporting us and get tons of fun perks such as patron-only commentaries, our episodes a day early or even earlier, come join us over at Patreon. Alright, Andrew, you ready to get back to it?
I'm ready.
But God, this thing is ghastly. You were so ecstatic when you found it at a yard sale. No, wait. In Mr. Gibbons' barn, it all comes back, it all comes back, it all comes back. There's you, and there's me, but now I'm the one who's 43 and stuck. I can't find my way through, just like you. Am I just like you?
A sign that he was
I
here.
can't abide romantic notions of something long ago.
I want to know what's true, dig deep into who and what and why and when.
Until now,
Comes Back is a great opening number, and I've already brought up previously how just theatrically it's brilliant for setting up the concept.
Yes.
So I'm curious, what do you thought of it?
I pretty much agree. And with a concept like this, dummies like me really need it set up, because otherwise I'd have no idea what's going on.
Last 5 years episode.
It's like, okay, who is that person? Why is that person talking about that little kid? I don't get it. What's happening? But yeah, I agree.
Like, how were you able to figure out that old Allison and young Allison were the same person? How long did it take for you to discover that?
Instantly. Just because of the way they talk about each other. I mean, it's not cryptic, thankfully.
I get that too. It also sets up beautifully like the recurring theme of "Daddy, I Want to Play Airplane," which breaks my heart every time I hear about it, because that is such like a little like thing between a parent and a child, and specific things like that adds to the verisimilitude of the overall storytelling. And
of course, that being the finale helps.
Well, it breaks your heart in the finale, but right here it's just like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah, and then they bring it back, and it all comes back.
It all comes back. It all comes back. And also it sets up the world. The only complaint I might have with it is at the end when everyone comes in with their like counterparts. Sometimes, if you're seeing like, I didn't notice it in the Broadway production, but in the album and in the touring production I saw, it gets real muddled. It's kind of like in Prima Donna at the like when everyone's like talking over each other and you can't hear anyone or anything, and it just becomes a mess. And I'm not sure if it's about the mixing of the cast album or just the general way that the song is written.
Most likely the mixing, if I were to guess. Because if in a stage setting you don't get that, it's probably because in the mixing they don't properly separate the voices.
But maybe I'm crazy and maybe that's just me, but it sounds a bit messy in the cast album, and in the touring production I noticed it too.
Okay, well then it might be some issues with the production. It may actually have more to do with the direction and like what how they're telling them to sing it. Because what might be good is to pick out what is the main melody and what needs to be louder than others, essentially, rather than just allowing everybody to just go ham.
Yeah, but that's literally my one criticism with this song, and it really only depends on how you're listening to it. But I remember just every time it happens in the album, it's like, this is just gibberish over top of each other, and I'm one that loves my point counterpoint, like overlapping musical melodies, but it just sounds a bit like a mess.
Yeah. Well, the version I saw didn't have that issue, so
no. I mean, maybe it did, and you just kind of didn't notice it, because that's the thing with bootlegs. Sometimes just shit sounds overlapping, and with things that do usually sound good can sound worse on a bootlegs, and things that sound bad might sound better on bootlegs because of the closeness of the actors or the fact that you're only really getting the speaker audio because of the way cameras work.
We got Kleenex and your choice of song. Stop by the fun home.
Think of Bechtel when you need your M-bomb.
You've got no reason to roam. Use the Bechtel Funeral Home. What it is, what it is. What it is, what it is.
Tell them what we got.
All right, so let's talk about Come to the Fun Home.
It's a fun song. It's little kids. I mean, when you have little kids on stage, it can get sloppy, and like the dancing can be kind of awkward, and the singing can be lackluster. But it's kids, so it's cute, I guess.
I remember seeing this live on Broadway, and they're like dancing on top of the casket, and I'm just like, them kids are gonna fall off that casket.
Well, that's part of the point, though. I mean, Bruce brings them to the fun home and just lets them do whatever they want, and it doesn't care if they get hurt emotionally or physically.
I mean, how do you think you would survive living in a funeral home? I feel like I would be just like constantly afraid of ghosts.
Cannibalism.
What?
That's how I would survive.
You'd have all these bodies to eat in a freezer.
I've been on a cannibalism kick, I'm gonna be honest with you.
Oh.
We need to watch...
Have you been on tour lately, trying to find your own cannibalism thing? Volunteer like the guy from Germany?
Mostly movies.
Okay, you're not like actually looking for someone to donate their body for your cannibalistic.
Yeah, I mean, I watched Ravenous, and that was pretty good. Have you seen Ravenous?
I have.
I liked it.
It was all right.
And then I watched Bone Tomahawk, and that was okay.
Haven't seen that. Have you seen what was the Eli Roth film?
Oh,
It's like
Eli
the Green
Roth.
Inferno.
I have not seen it, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, where they eat like all the teenagers in the woods and it's like real
Yeah.
racist and shit.
Dude, that's sick. We need more cannibalism films.
Sweeney Todd, get on it.
Yeah, Sweeney Todd is a good one.
That's the ultimate cannibalism film in my opinion.
Is there any more musicals with cannibalism?
I mean, Dracula? That's technically cannibalism, right?
Vampires aren't cannibals. They don't eat it. They don't eat the body.
Silence, the musical adaptation of Silence of the Lambs, that's got cannibalism.
That's, fair enough. That's true. Is that any good?
It's a comedy. It's really funny.
Oh, but so it's not good in the same way that the movie is good.
No, and they're not trying to be.
Okay.
They're mostly making fun of the movie.
Yeah. So
I think Hannibal Lecter stories would make a great musical.
So come to the fun home. My consensus is it's kids.
It's kids and they dancing and having fun.
They're having the fun on the stage, and then our parents are making the money.
And then they go to the back and oh no, dead body.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, last night. I got so excited, I was too enthusiastic. Thank you for not laughing. Well, you laughed a little bit at one point when I was touching you and said I might lose consciousness, which you said was adorable. And I just have to trust that you don't think I'm an idiot or some kind of an animal. I never lost control due to overwhelming lust, but I must say that I'm changing my major to Joan. I'm changing my major to sex with Joan. I'm changing my major to sex with Joan, with a minor in kissing Joan. Foreign study to Joan's inner thighs, a seminar on Joan's ass in her Levi's, and Joan's crazy brown eyes.
Oh, you want to talk about
Joan, I
changing
feel like
my
her
major?
I do, because it is Middle Allison's only real song.
Is it?
Yeah, it's like her big number, her big moment.
I love that in whatever listing we're seeing here, they're labeled as small and medium, and not like young and young adult or something like that.
Well, I kind of like that because that's a very kid way of describing characters.
It's very weird, but okay. Changing my major.
Yeah, I know you didn't like the song. I like it because I find sex hilarious.
Okay, I don't dislike the song. I just think the subject matter of it is a bit juvenile.
You know what, Andrew? You're one to talk about juvenile humor.
I am. Since I'm one of the proprietors of it, I think I would be quite knowledgeable in calling something juvenile. Sex humor is juvenile.
Sex humor is great and it hurts nobody.
That is not true. It hurts good Christian folks who don't want to hear about it.
Fuck 'em. Fuck 'em.
Yeah, okay.
Honestly,
I agree.
I get what you're saying. And after, like, the first reveal, it does kind of get old. Like, oh, the joke's said and all over that.
Yeah, it's one of those songs where it's like there's one joke and they tell it over and over again. And I'm trying to think of other songs where they do that.
We've covered songs like that before.
We have covered songs like that. I mean, all the way back to our first episode where they have one joke for Sweeney Todd for that entire song.
That's a good joke.
See, the thing with that one, though, is with that joke, they tell it in different ways throughout the entire song.
Yes.
And they keep coming up with different jokes that are related to the same joke. Whereas with this one, it's kind of just like, I'm changing my major to having sex with this person. And that's the joke.
Yes, but let me bring up a specific part of this song that I think is very important to the overall themes and recurring pieces.
Sure.
So both Bruce and Allison kind of have themes that they trade between each other. Like we see Bruce like changing in the mirror early on. He sings the "Not too bad if I say so myself."
Not too bad if I say so myself. I might still break a heart or two. Sometimes the fire burns so hot, I don't know what I'll do.
Which Allison then replies when she's drawing her dad, like, "Not too bad if I show myself," and all that.
Yeah.
Not too bad if I say so myself. This outshines the first one I drew. I don't know which way's up. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
So then Allison trades this one between her, this little theme in the middle of here where she's like,
am I falling into nothingness or flying into something so sublime? I don't know, but I'm changing my major to Joe.
which is her coming to life, because in her own memoir, she basically said, I became my full person when I discovered I was a lesbian, and I felt like I was dead before that.
Yeah.
Whereas then she gives that theme over to Bruce, who sings that in Edges of the World, like, am I falling into nothingness or falling into something so sublime, right before he kills himself.
And I'm falling into nothingness or flying into something so sublime.
So when her life begins, his ends, and they trade that motif to represent that.
Okay, fair enough. I can see that. That does help with the cohesiveness of it and preventing this song from being a fluff song.
Yes, and that's part of why I wanted to talk about this, for that thematic reason. Although there is a development of the joke where she is like, sex is great, and she's like, I'm just overcompensating my excitement because I'm terrified right now. Like that little piece is where it gives like the gravitas, the emotional integrity of the song, that is like, I'm compensating because I don't know how to behave and I'm scared. And I've felt that before where,
Yeah.
I don't know, you've never met me in person, so you don't quite know the difference between me and you talking right here, or even the performative nature I have because I know an audience is listening.
Yes.
But because my girlfriend points this out, like, I crank my personality up to 900% whenever I'm like in a group of people, just because I have this fear and of not being performing. Like, no matter what, I have to be the positive, high energy, whatever. And it's just because of an inner terrified nature inside. So it's like a compensating nature. Like, if I act happy all the time, maybe I won't be as scared.
People will like me.
It's not even about people liking me. It's like, I'm not going to be scared in this social situation anymore if I just am the highest energy one here.
That's true. It's like a if you act confident, you are confident kind of thing.
Yes, and some people, that rubs them the wrong way, and then when they get me one-on-one and I'm much more naturalistic like this, it's like, oh, this is you. Okay.
Yeah, I could see that too, because in a sexual nature, I think there are a lot of people like that are not confident with their sexuality, so they really overcompensate, like, I like having sex more than anybody else, and I have more sex and sex.
Well, it's also goofy sexuality. Like, you don't see that enough in, like, media where it is sex, but it's goofy. Like, have you seen Booksmart?
I have not.
There's this beautiful sex scene in there where it's just, like, the awkwardness of, like, pulling someone's pants off while they have sneakers and shit like that.
Oh, you take the shoes off first.
Well, you don't always know
unless they're SpongeBob Heelys, you keep those on.
And then when she like tries to finger her girlfriend and she accidentally misses the vagina and puts it in her butthole. That movie's great, guys.
How do you even do that?
Well, I don't know. I can't, like, if it's all wet down there, I imagine it's pretty easy.
Jesus, is she having diarrhea at the same time? Like, how is it so wet? Okay. But never mind. I didn't say anything.
For short. Hey, yo, yeah, this is my Mustang convertible. Yeah, I found it at the dump. Pow, I fixed it up myself. Blam, on a ride. I'm going to Paris. No? Alright. See you later, yeah. I'm in Paris in my Mustang on the Boulevard. Oh no! Did that man just shove that lady? Did he make her cry? Pardonnez-moi, mademoiselle. J'ai ever date to make sure everything is d'accord here. Mindez-vous your business. I grab his arm, twisted behind his back. Excusez-moi, monsieur, but I believe I was talking to the mademoiselle. Merci.
Before we move on to like a song actually in the show, I do want to give a quick honorable mention to a song that no longer exists in the show, but existed in when I was introduced to the show. So
Okay.
in 2014, the show had not hit Broadway yet. There was just the off-Broadway public theater cast recording. And fun fact, it had Alexandra Sosha on it playing medium Allison. And when the Broadway cast came up, they replaced her with Emily Skaggs, but kept all the other tracks the same.
Okay.
And they added one or two, like they added the New York scene and the dress scene. But in the original cast album, the off-Broadway cast album, instead of the party dress scene, there's this scene where he's just like yelling at his daughter because she's dressed funny. And she sings this song called Allison, where it's a fantasy about her being this detective character, like this male detective that the women fawn over, and she loves driving around in her Ferrari, and it's adorable and like kid adorable, and represents like the kind of coming to terms with your sexuality in a lot less of a direct way than the party dress scene. It's a much more like she sees herself as the male hero in these stories, as opposed to like she doesn't want to wear a dress.
Yeah.
Which I kind of appreciate the subtlety of a little bit more than the party dress scene.
I can see that. I don't think I quite understand what the song is about, though. She's pretending to be a detective?
Yes, it's just like a kid playing by herself with like in her room, like with a hat and shit.
Okay.
At least that's how I imagined it. And
I would like to wear a hat and pretend to be a detective, so I can relate to that.
But no, I think it's great. And I missed that song in the more recent version. And I knew this is going to be my one chance to talk about Fun Home, so I'm going to get all of my Fun Home thoughts off my chest here.
Don't worry, when we do season 2, we're just going to redo all these episodes, so...
Season 2. Andrew, how do you like them the second time around?
It sucks.
I don't know, you gave it a pretty good rating the first time.
I was wrong.
You didn't notice her at first, but I saw her the moment she walked in. She was a delivery woman. She came in with a handcart full of packages. She was an old school butch.
Someone just came in the door, like no one I ever saw before. I feel I don't know where you came from. I wish I did. I feel so dumb. I feel your swagger and your bearing and the just right clothes you're wearing, your short hair and your dungarees and your lace-up boots and your keys. Oh, your ring of keys.
All right, let's talk about the iconic song next, Ring of Keys.
All right, you go first. This is your chance to talk about it.
Ring of Keys is a song unlike any other, and it is possibly the hardest thing that they had to jump through to sell the show. To show burgeoning lesbian attractiveness and appreciation without sounding like you're kind of sexualizing a young child. Because in these days, just any interest in homosexuality in the form of a child experiencing it was seen as sexualizing a child. So they had a very fine line to ride. And right here, I think they just describe like these very specific characteristics, like just from one frame in Alison Bechdel's book. She just sees this like very masculine themed woman with a ring of keys. Like it's never even addressed or highlighted in the book. It just she happened to have been wearing it. That character happened to be wearing it, and it's like this very specific weird moment where she's like, I kind of idolize that person. And then they turn it into like Allison sees that person and falls in love with the idea of everything that she represents, as opposed to falling in love with the way that person looks, which is a brilliant idea. And the song comes across, it just makes you want to cry when you hear it.
Yeah. What do I even add
think?
to that? I think it's a very interesting exploration into how young girls and, well, just young people find identity in general.
Right.
Because, I mean, yeah, I don't think kids really know what's going on around them in general, ever. And like when you're trying to find an identity, a lot of times it's just looking at someone and being like, I like that. And that's kind of it.
Precisely. It's like, I didn't think women like that were allowed to exist.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of young LGBT kids feel that way. I didn't think a person like that could exist. I didn't think a trans woman could exist. And that's why representation matters so much in our media and our stories, because it could be that important moment of, I didn't know someone like that could exist. And it doesn't even extend to just the LGBT community, despite the fact that that's what this show is about. It's minorities of any kind. I imagine African American or black people just watch Star Wars and see John Boyega as a hero in that movie, and is like, that I didn't know that they could be portrayed in that way.
And now
I've heard
now you can see John Boyega as a hero in real life.
Yeah, isn't it fucking incredible?
I think it's cool.
John Boyega is the real MVP.
This is the best Star Wars movie ever made.
I just hope that the good guys win in this one.
Yeah. I really hope we're not an Empire.
I hope this isn't the Empire Striking Back. Look at us white boys comparing like this horrible systemic problem to Star Wars.
Hey, at least we're not comparing it to Harry Potter.
No. That is fair.
Days and days and days, that's how it happens. Days and days and days, made of posing and bragging and fits of rage. And boys, my God, some of them underage. And oh, how did it all happen here? There was a time your father swept me off my feet with words. We read books, strolled through Munich at night, drank beer with friends, discussed the places we would go. And he said I understood how the world made him ache. But no, that's how it happens. Days made of bargains I made because I thought as a wife I was meant to, and now my life is shattered and laid bare. Days and days and days and days and days and days and days.
Let's talk about Days and Days, which is the mother's like only real number.
But it breaks your heart, tears it in half.
It's so sad, especially because up to this point, since like the halfway point, they were kind of building up the mother as like bigoted and not accepting of Allison's coming out. But then they hit you with this one, and it's like, oh man.
And the thing is, like, I don't care that you're gay. It's just like everything that represents in my life has been terrible because your husband's been having affairs with men forever, and I don't know how to handle all these things. And I'm trying to take it one day at a time, but they just keep piling and it gets worse.
Yeah, you just feel bad. It's a sad song.
Well, it's also a sad song for Allison because, as weird as it is, I feel like she's never had a conversation with her parents until she comes back from college. Until she goes away from a while and then comes back, she never had a good conversation with her parents. Like an actual revealing conversation, because they're all hiding shit.
Yeah, well, I think it also, as far as from the show perspective as well, this is like the first time her mom says anything to her, like at all, that we see, like, really.
Anything positive. Like they have that interaction where she's like, did Chopin write chopsticks? And she's like, it's Chopin, don't bother me.
Yeah, well, as I said, they don't really talk.
No. And anytime you see her and Bruce talk, it's not particularly positive either.
Yeah, and now we know why.
Because there's so much, like, under the surface, and it's not because they didn't love you, it's just they were dealing with so much other shit. Specifically the mom.
Yeah, but speaking of the dad, though, I think we have to get to the next song.
14 years old. In Swenson's barn. It was cold. Lots of boys messed around, you know. For them, it was a game they outgrew. But I always knew.
Dad, me too, since like 5, I guess. I prefer to wear boy shirts and pants. I felt absurd in a dress. I really tried to deny my feelings for girls, but I was like you. Dad, me too.
Norris Jones.
Dad.
Norris Jones.
Dad.
Hey, did I mention that new project I've taken on? Oh, you've seen it out. That old house out on Route 150. Oh, it's been standing out there empty 40, 50 years at least.
Telephone wire. Stop too fast. Telephone wire. Make this not the past. This car ride. This is where it has to happen. There must be some other chances. There's a moment I'm forgetting where you tell me you see me. Say something. Talk to me. Say something. Anything. At the light. At the light. This can't be our last.
That was fun. Oh, it's earlier than I thought.
Yes. Let's talk about Telephone Wire, which is the climax, so to say. This is the big moment where everything was building up to.
This is kind of where I decided that I liked the show. Like, more than just felt like it was mediocre. Like, I thought it was like, oh, this is actually a pretty good one. Because
All right, I want your thoughts.
I feel like this scene, the way that there's almost 2 different songs happening at the same time is what makes it so powerful, in my opinion. Like, they are never singing together. They're just on stage at the same time, and they're both singing. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a duet, but it is.
And I feel like it's a brilliant choice, one. And I didn't know this until I saw the show live, because I listened to the album, and I always assumed it was middle Allison in the car with him, just because it's an album. And then I see it live, and he's talking to the adult Allison, who's finally getting a quote-unquote second chance to say all the things she wishes she could have said.
Yeah.
Which breaks your heart even more, and makes the entire framing device worth it.
Yeah. This is the big scene, and I feel like if they're gonna do a movie version of it, if they don't nail this part, it's a failure as a whole.
And it does a very good job at letting you know what is actually being said and what isn't. Like, she basically says, she says the things that she wishes she had said back then. Like, since like 5, I guess, I wanted to wear boy shirts and pants. I always felt weird in a dress. I tried to hide my feelings for girls. I was like you, Dad, me too. And then you realize, like, he's just stuck in the moment before, and he didn't hear any of that, because she never said that in real life. This is all her mind. And it's so fucking brilliantly done.
And it's so tragic, and I don't know. It's like, but I feel like everyone has a moment like that, where they just wish they had said something else.
Yeah, I mean... I've had like 4 of those all day today, just like things I could have said, things I could have handled better, things I could have explained better, now that I have the hindsight to be able to express my feelings. Because I feel like when we're all young, we don't know what to do with our feelings, so we hide them down or express them in unproductive ways. And now as an adult, there's so many things I felt in the past that I didn't know how to express, and now I would be able to express perfectly.
I'm a man, I don't know. Who am I now, or do I go? I can't go back, I can't find my way through. I might still break a heart or 2, but when the sunlight hits the parlor wall at certain times of day, I see how fine this house could be. I see it so clear. Oh my God, why am I standing
here? Let's move on to Edges of the World.
Okay, so I'm a little confused on the timeline here. Is this like immediately following Telephone Wire? Like, is this the next day, or is this like much later?
it's like a period of weeks after Telephone Wire. So she comes back to visit, and then she goes back to college for like 2 months, and then doesn't come back again until the funeral of her dad. And Edges of the World is basically Bruce's letter to both Allison, like, about his world and like how he's feeling, which is relatively positive until it becomes like his own profession of his own misery and anger, and how old he's getting, and how it's represented in this house he's trying to fix up, and how he doesn't have the energy to fix up old broken houses anymore.
Yeah.
And it brings back every theme. It brings back the I might still break a heart or two theme, and it brings back the am I falling into nothingness or flying into something so divine, which is basically him saying I am falling and I'm about to die and I know this. And it's like this, and while he's singing it, like the preamble to it is Allison asking questions like, did you do it because of me? Did it have nothing to do with me? I'm almost afraid that it had nothing to do with me, because then it would mean I wasn't important to you. Like, her entire relationship with her dad is forever framed in this moment where he kills himself.
Yeah. And it's a bit strange because the person telling the story doesn't actually know why he did it. So he never actually explains why he did it in the song. At least not really.
It is a metaphorical song about this broken down house, and you're supposed to make the comparisons like the house represents him, like peeling plaster, broken floorboards, sagging roof, a draping hole, and then like it's so terrible, it's so horrible. But when the sunlight hits the parlor wall at certain times of day, I see how fine this place could be. Like, at certain times, he could have been a happy, adjusted person, but no, he isn't, because he's so broken in so many other places.
Yeah.
And it breaks your fucking heart, despite the fact that by all means we know that Bruce Bechtel is a huge piece of shit as a human being, as a father, as a husband. In every facet of his life, he is a terrible person. But you still feel for this man as he's like, knows he's about to die. And I think it all has to do with the charm of the performer as well as the staging. Because when that truck beam comes out and you just see him reflected in nothing but the lights coming towards him, staring as he's about to basically die, and the truck horn coming in, the silence in every audience I've seen this with, because I've seen this show 3 times, you could hear a pen drop. It's unlike a lot of times in theater where there's quiet moments and you hear like the coughing and the baby crying and all that nonsense. It is just everyone is sucked in. So Edges of the World is a great song, and I think the movie would be worth it just to see Jake Gyllenhaal perform this, because it kind of is a soliloquy song up to par with like things like Macbeth or Hamlet, in my opinion. Because it's very difficult. It's like Mama Rose's Turn. It is that level of, I need to know what every line means, even if the audience and the writers don't exactly know what it means.
I'm sure he could do a fantastic job. I think it will matter how it's staged quite a bit, though. But
yeah, how it's shot and all that.
Maybe just for the soundtrack it will matter, though.
Yes, I maybe I just want to hear Jake Gyllenhaal sing that one song like on his own without a movie attached to it.
Daddy, comma. Hey, Daddy, come here, okay? Question mark. I need you.
Daddy, come here, okay? I need you.
At the light, at the light, at the light, at the light. What are you doing, comma? I said, come here. You need
what are you doing? I said, come here.
What I tell
you need to do what I tell you to do. Listen to me. Daddy, come here. Hey, right here, right now. You're making me mad. Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. I wanna play airplane.
You and
I wanna play airplane.
You and
I wanna play put your feet here like this. Daddy, do what I say.
There you are, Dad.
Take my hand, give me yours. Bend your knees not that way.
There
when I say go, start pushing me up. Okay.
Don't let go yet.
finally, let's talk about the finale, Flying Away, where all three Allisons reprise the Daddy, like I Want to Play Airplane, and as well as Telephone Wire and their own like songs. And it is this beautiful tribute to both nostalgia, how we look back and how we look forward in our lives, and how we're all like, at one point, all three Allisons are now finally on stage embracing who they are and understanding what all this means. Whether or not it really makes sense to the audience and makes sense to the character of adult Allison looking back and emotionally completing like what she was looking for.
It's a good way to end it. I love that it ties back to the beginning. I love that it's reflecting on what she considers one of the only good moments she has with her dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, flying is always a good metaphor. So,
yeah, Wright Brothers musical. I like the final quote at the end where she's like, "The one moment of pure bliss was when I soared above him," and it is framing like, hey, I had positive moments with him and all that, but it's not in any way excusing any of the shit he did. Like, that is another very important aspect. She does not forgive him for doing the horrible things he did. It is just reflecting that all people are human, and I feel like there's always a moment when we realize our parents are human. And it's kind of messes with you for a bit. You come to terms with it eventually, but it's a hard sell at the moment.
It's when they post about Donald Trump. That's the moment, by the way.
Yeah.
That's the moment we're talking about, by the way.
You know what? You know who definitely hasn't voted for Donald Trump, though?
Me?
Our wonderful patrons. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for following us. Andrew, what is your overall thoughts on Fun Home and your cheese rating?
Let's see. Overall, I'm
leaving that in.
That's fine. Overall, I think it's quite good. Of the kind of like intimate and more realistic and down to earth kind of shows, I think this is probably one of my favorites. And I think the emotional aspect of it really connects. So I'm going to say that I definitely recommend it, and I enjoyed it. The music is quite good throughout, and the child performances are short, so.
But let me say about child performances, our friend on the Broadway Podcast Network, who does incredible as young Allison. She is revolutionary and deserved that Tony nomination. Sydney Lucas truly knocked it out of the park there. Like,
great job.
For as young as she was, that is
we
incredible.
Are obligated to say that you did a great job.
Check my Twitter back in 2015. I was saying it back then.
Jess knows how to edit his Twitter somehow. I'm not sure how, but...
Yep, you got it. All right, and what is your cheese rating?
Oh boy, I don't even know what to say on this one. I mean, there's not really any cheese that directly relates that I can think of. But I don't know. Why don't we do yours first, and then I'll do mine after. We'll come back.
All right. Fun Home is one of my favorite musicals of all time. It is one of the few musicals where on first listen I was sobbing, and it was also at a specific point in my life where I was just very emotionally fragile. It came out my freshman year of college, and I listened to the album within like my first week of my first weeks of college. My grandmother had died like a week before I started listening to, and it's like becoming an adult and looking back in your childhood, that was like raging in me at the moment. And I remember just it coming on to like Flying Away and just me being a wreck on I-94 West, coming home from like my fourth day of college and being like, oh my God, what am I going to do with my future? And like all that shit. Like, it broke my heart, and it has been a very important piece for me personally. And I totally get why it's not as quite powerful for people that aren't me too. And yeah, so my cheese rating is funeral cheese.
I did not know that was a type of cheese.
It technically isn't. It's what they call the potato hot dish casserole that they give out at funerals. Like, you know, that potato dish.
Ah, okay.
It's very popular in the Midwest.
I'm going to give it... I'm kind of torn here. I want to give it Munster cheese because her father is a bit of a monster. I'm just gonna let that one sit for a second.
You fucker.
But I think I'm gonna give it pepper jack because it's spicy.
Well, Andrew, that was great. Thank you guys for listening. Please follow us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher at Musicals with Cheese. Our Twitter is at Cheesy Musicals. Our Patreon is Musicals with Cheese. Our Instagram is Musicals with Cheese. Our YouTube page is Musicals with Cheese. Our Patreon is also Musicals with Cheese. Please go send us some love on Patreon. We've got the Glee podcast. It's going to keep going. We're going to talk some mad shit about Leah Michele because she's a horrible, horrible person, apparently.
Just like us.
Just like us. Our email is musicaltheaterlives@gmail.com. Our title card is created by the amazing Jolene Casco. And it is just kind of a period of the time, and I don't know how the world's going to be looking by the time this gets posted. But right now on June 3rd, the world is in a bit of a trouble thing, and I want to put a shout out to all the protesters and folks that are out there fighting for their lives. If you can, please donate at the Bail Project. I'm going to put a link in the bio of our show for the Bail Project, just to help those that are protesting get out of jail, and also like donate to all the other foundations and the link that I'll be putting down there. There's going to be tons of them, and we just want to make sure that we're helping those and paying it forward, because we can't just be silent. I know that we're here mostly to take the piss out of musicals because that's what we do here, but come on, hashtag Black Lives Matter. Be an adult.
Yeah.
Actually evaluate what you believe in, and if you do believe in something, actually stand by it. Put your money where your mouth is if you financially can, and if not, put your voice out there.
Go out and find the leaders of the highly organized terrorist organization, Anti-Fascist.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Did I say highly organized and leaders? Because they don't have it. Oh, right. Please vote out Donald Trump when we get the chance. Please.
Yes.
Please, for the love of God.
Let's not pretend that this is a strictly Donald Trump issue, but Donald Trump police militia is. But
I'm not saying that, but I am saying get rid of Donald Trump, please.
Get rid of Donald Trump, please, but also be aware that this shit has been going on for years and years and years. Obama dealt with this shit and didn't do anything. This isn't a new thing. No,
we need drastic change. I'm not sure where to even start. I mean, I think the easiest place to start is to get rid of Trump.
That's the first step in a long series. Like, that's the first step of a mile run.
Yes. So keep up the protests. Maybe we'll be like Hong Kong, and we'll just keep going for years.
Yeah. All right. On that happy note, we'll see you next time on Musicals with Cheese.
Dun, da, 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 da.